Welcome back in. Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We're rolling through the Wednesday edition of the program. And, Buck, there's a major viral controversy out there, and it has turned into a really sort of cultural flashpoint. You have the facts, I think, in front of you right now, but there was a dad who was trying to get to a job interview, and he had 3 young kids, and he took them to McDonald's. The interview was close to the McDonald's. The kids are 10 years old, 4 years old, and 1 year old.
10, 6, and 1.
Okay, 10, 6, and 1. And he left them at the McDonald's to do the interview. Where did this take place?
So this was in Augusta, Georgia, and it was one of those McDonald's that has the attached playground.
Right.
And so it was right next to where the job interview is. This guy's 24 years old, Chris Lewis. He's a father. He's a black guy. Augusta, Georgia, 10-year-old, 6-year-old, 1-year-old children. He went to go to the interview, and when he came back, somebody had called the police on the fact that these 3 kids were in the playground. And since this, and he was arrested. Okay, They arrested him. They didn't just sort of give him a warning. They arrested him. And now this has gotten a lot of attention because people are saying, hold on a second. You know, he doesn't have money for a babysitter. His family situation is difficult. He's trying to get a job, to do things the right way, to put money, in the bank account, food on the table for the kids and himself. And you're going to arrest this guy and give him a record over this? A lot of people are saying, 10-year, if you just throw this out there, I haven't done this, but my little brother went for a visit to, there's like 8-year-olds riding the subway alone in Tokyo.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
I mean, this, and like not just Tokyo, like all over Japan, there are cultures where 8, 9, 10-year-olds move about freely. And I think it actually says a lot more that we're all have to be so freaked out in this country that a 10-year-old is going to be kidnapped in public. It says a lot more about how we need to work on public safety here. But okay, what do you think? I got to say, I find myself in the, I think this is. I don't think the guy should have been arrested. I think the cops probably should have said, "Hey, man, keep a closer eye on your kids. Bad things can happen." I don't think he should have been arrested. I think the judge is going to dismiss the charges. A lot of big name celebrities have gotten involved in this. What do you think? I mean, basically, okay, a 10-year-old, maybe that's too. Is a 12-year-old too young?
Okay, so I've got 3 kids that would have been at some point in time roughly akin to these ages, right? At one point, I had a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old, or something like that. So I had 3 boys around these ages. I need more info. And how long were they at the McDonald's, right? That factors in to me on some level. The one, and I think most parents are going to flag this, a 1-year-old is really, really young. So is it like a 1-year-old meaning it's a 12-month-old, or is it like a 1-year-old and it's a 22-month-old? The reason why I bring up the 1-year-old is 1-year-olds need diapers changed. Is the 10-year-old changing the diaper? Like, how long was the dad there with leaving the kids?
I'm just going to go out on I don't think he was. I'm just guessing. I don't think he was going for like 3 hours of interviews at McKinsey or something. Like, he probably would sit down with a guy, talk to him for 15 or 20 minutes.
That's the question.
You know what I mean?
I would not.
A standard, again, not casting any aspersions, but I think it's probably a pretty standard job interview. I don't think they were asking him to do multivariable calculus.
The 10-year-old in general, every parent out there is going to understand this too. There's a wide range of 10-year-olds when it comes to their responsibility. Like, some 10-year-olds are, that's 5th grade. Some can be. I've got a 10-year-old right now, 4th grade. Again, you don't know exactly when they're turning. Are they old, about to be 11?
Now, what if, for example, if he had said, just throwing this out there, if he had said to one of the employees at McDonald's, "Hey, can you keep an eye on my kids? I'll be back in 20 minutes. I've just got to run down the street for a job interview. Can you keep an eye on them?" Everybody cool with that?
I think that would actually draw more attention to you not being there.
Well, but I'm just, so what are.
So I want to know, so first of all, I don't think the guy should be arrested. But again, I want to know more info, because as more info comes out, sometimes the cops look more reasonable. What if the kids were there for 2 hours? What if the 1-year-old was crying and the 10-year-old couldn't get it to stop, and eventually they had to say, like, what's going on here?
According to the Augusta Press, it was a short time, and he came back immediately. Now, what is a short time? I mean, a short time is not 2 hours. I think, less than an hour is a short time in my mind for this kind of a thing. So maybe the kids are there. Let's assume they're there. I don't know.
He's trying to do the point is, I think intent matters. He's trying to take care of his family. You don't know what might have happened with the babysitter. Did somebody get sick? Did grandma not be able to help out?
And it's not like, he left the kid so he could go to a strip club in the middle of the day or something.
That would be
I think
tough.
it's also right. But I'm just saying, the public sympathy for someone trying to show up for an interview, trying to get a job, trying to earn money the right way is substantial here.
I think so.
People are in a tough spot.
I would not have, again, I always want to give the cops benefit of the doubt because so many of these stories go viral and then more details come out. And you're like, oh, it was 2 hours. And, oh, it was a baby. And the baby was crying. And people were concerned about I think the 10 and the 6-year-old, it wouldn't have been noticed. Because I think the 10 and the 6-year-old in the play area, it's the 1-year-old that throws the I think for most
that's
people.
Very,
10 and 6-year-olds can go to the bathroom on their own. They can play inside of a play area on their own. A lot of 10-year-olds aren't responsible enough to watch a 1-year-old. Again, it could be a 1-year-old that's almost 2, and the 1-year-old's playing in the area itself too. But I'm sympathetic to the dad because, or the mom in this situation.
I would also just say, keep in mind, because it's at a McDonald's with the attached playground.
That's right.
There are not only just people, but there are adults who work there who are. You would assume the 10. Again, look, it's clearly not a perfect situation. It was not the right move. But is it a arrestable, you get a criminal record move is really where people have said, hold on a second.
No, I don't think it's an arrestable move. And I think it's a warning. And again, I want to know more details. I would love to hear from the guy. Has he done an interview yet? Like, this is something that I think would be a...
He's got a GoFundMe that's kicking up quite a bunch.
Well, I like the GoFundMe, but we have a huge audience in Augusta. I think we have nearly the #1 radio show in Augusta, Georgia. Masters are coming up soon. I bet there's people who own businesses that would be interested in hiring this guy if, again, he's got the willingness to try to put his family first. So I think
that's the point. I think you said the word intent, and I think that needs to be always such. In most statutes, it is not always, but I think it should always at least be taken into account before you're going to charge somebody and give somebody possibly a criminal record. People trying to do the right thing, absent recklessness or some very specific set of circumstances, should certainly be always taken as a mitigating factor. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything wrong. I was actually trying to do a good thing and had an error of judgment. And look, judges do take this into. I don't think this guy is going to end up getting a criminal record.
I think also, again, it's also the case. Every single parent has had this happen, where you try to do everything right and you've got a babysitter and you've got somebody to watch your kid and it doesn't happen. Every single parent listening to me right now has had grandma or an aunt or a babysitter scheduled, and then at the last possible moment you get a call. Babysitter sick. Babysitter just isn't that reliable, doesn't show up. And this guy, if he had the interview, again, I would love to hear the full story because I think we could get this guy hired in Augusta, Georgia, just based on our Augusta, Georgia listenership. If the story is as it has been reported, and he's trying to bust his ass to help take care of 3 young kids, and he knows he has to get this job, what other options does he have? It's hot, right? You don't want to leave the kids in the car. Because God forbid, that's way more dangerous.
Clear
right?
Safety issue is a whole set.
So,
that would be child endangerment, no question.
Now, you could show up at the interview with the kids and be like, hey, this is why I need the job so bad. But again, like, he probably doesn't want to look like desperate or unreliable. Correct. That you need to bringing your kids to a job interview.
What is the age at which you're free and clear to let a child stay, stay either? Well, I think home is probably different than in a public
totally
place,
different,
right?
That is true.
So, but what would be the age at which we would all say, oh, it's fine that you let your kids stay alone at McDonald's while you went down the block for an hour? Is it 13?
An hour is
okay?
a long time. Like the 10 and the 6-year-old, I think a lot of parents would say McDonald's playground if suddenly you had to run next door for 20 minutes, you wouldn't want to do it. Dad, by the way, way more likely to do it than mom. Let's be honest. Like dads have a little bit higher risk tolerance for kids than mom does. But I think a lot of dads 10 and 6. It's the one that I come back to.
Yeah, the one is that
1-year-old is like, I mean, you're basically in a carrying case if you're a young 1-year-old. If you're 1.5,
what if the kid? I mean, maybe the 1-year-old was in a stroller, basically in the shade. Again, we don't know all the details of the situation. 1-year-old in the stroller, they're in the playground. You know, if I were him, I would have said, "Hey, can you keep an?" Well, I would have tried not to do this whole thing, obviously, but in a worst case basis, like, oh my God, my house is burning down, I need to run down the street. I think I would have told somebody at McDonald's, "Hey, could you just do me a solid and keep an eye on my kids?" You know, because you can see them from inside of the restaurant.
Again, I would love to talk to this guy to find out the details. Presumably, another parent is the one who raised the issue. Were the kids misbehaving inside of the play area?
The details matter a lot here.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
was there some reason that did the kids look like they were in distress? Were they crying and they felt like they were abandoned? We don't know everything.
Did one of the parents there say, "Where's your dad or your mom?" And they're like, "Oh, he left us."
But what is the age as a parent where you are in America now? Where you are? I mean, I bet we could have people call in who are like, "I was." 11, I'm like driving a pickup truck down the road and, we're in a rural area. I think that would have been 40 or 50 years ago maybe, but I think things have changed a lot.
I think the standards are a lot different even than when we were kids. I mean, I rode the school bus home in 5th grade, got out, walked home. Nobody else was in the house.
So what are you, like 12?
11, I think, in 5th
12,
grade.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is this kid, 5th grade, 4th. I've got a 4th grader now.
I think a 13. I think if someone says, "Oh, can your 13-year-old be alone in public for an hour without parental supervision under certain circumstances?" I think most people would say,
"Oh, 13 is 100%,
right?
Like 13-year-old go to the mall and walk
right,
around,
right. Okay,
I mean, but so I think the 10-year-old is right on that level because 10-year-old can be 5th grade, 10-year-old can be 4th grade. Like you are reliable. Also, does the kid have a phone?
Right.
Some ability to be contacted. And again, how long were they actually left there? Did they buy food? I think that factors in too, because if you own McDonald's and you just drop your kids off and you don't buy any food, don't buy any drink, I think people would say, that's different too.
I'd be curious for any of, if you're a parent and you have if you have a strong take on this one way or the other, yeah, he should have been arrested. You can't do this reckless, the 1-year-old, or this is nuts. Why would some? Because Clay and I have both been kind of going back and forth in it. If you think it's crazy, he got arrested, he wasn't trying to. Let's hear from you on this. And also, if you're from law enforcement, I'm wondering if you have any experience with this kind of thing and where you draw the line. I'm probably in different states. There are different guidelines about this. But when is it? It was like endangering a minor or something like that was what he was. Deprivation of a minor was the charge he was arrested for. Okay, well, is that kind of up to the discretion of the officer in a situation? Absent abuse, anything bad happening, is that up to the officer? I'm kind of curious. I have no idea.
Yeah, and I'm curious on the responses. And again, in Augusta, this is a 24-year-old guy. Now, it says that he has a 10-year-old. It may not be his kid, right? I mean, he may be taking care of other people's kids. Maybe some of the kids are his. I just need more information to have a full-on opinion on it. But what do they always say? I think it's 100% true. You know who the best employees are? Men with kids. Man with a family is going to show up and he's going to come to work as a general rule more reliable than single guy is.
VIP email from Gary. Is this correct? How about the fact that he's 24 with a 10-year-old kid?
Well, that's what it says. So I was just saying, is it actually his kid, the oldest 10-year-old? Is he in charge of taking care of multiple kids? Again, there are a lot of details
here.
There's
stuff I didn't even think about that, Matt. There's stuff we don't know.
Definitely need to be fleshed out. But, I mean, there are people who have young kids, have kids at young ages, and are trying to do the right thing. And to me, if you're trying to get a job to take care of your family, intent matters here. You're trying to do something to help your family be better off than they otherwise would, which is why I want to know more details. But again, I also think you have to be fair to the police because the police oftentimes don't get their full story told. How many times have we seen a viral story where the police are the bad guy, and the police are the bad guys here, And then the details come out, and it's like, well, the kids were there for an hour and a half.
I wouldn't even say the police the bad guy. It might be. It's kind of like with a teacher in school. Sometimes they
don't have any other option.
Police might be mandatory because of the age of the 1-year-old. No parental. So I actually don't blame the officers without knowing what all the facts are and being on the. I'm not blaming the officers. Like there's a lot that's. But the bottom line here is, what's the age at which you're allowed to leave a kid in public alone and not get arrested?
10 and 6-year-olds I would be okay with. Some of you are going to say this
but
is
it might not be what you're okay with.
It
may actually be a function of law in some states. I don't know.
I don't think they would have arrested him if it had just been a 10 and a 6-year-old. I think the 1-year-old is the tough part here. Job number one, most of us out there, protect our families and the safety of our homes. Most of the time, communities are safe enough, protected enough, so maybe you don't have to worry about it. But what about when you do? What about when something does emerge as a problem? Sabre, they make products you can defend yourself and your family with. Family-owned business. They've been at this for 50 years. And how you best protect yourself and your family? Well, Sabre products. They got all sorts of stuff. Non-lethal pepper sprays. A lot of you out there with daughters, granddaughters going off to school, driving around all day. It's really great. You can put it on the keychain. My wife has got it. You can have it as well. Also, they have home defense projectile pepper spray launchers. I've talked about this. I got 2 teenage boys. Maybe you've got young kids in your house that are coming back in. They're 17, 18 years old. They may not always make curfew. Maybe you got kids off way at college. Maybe they're in their 20s, but they still swing by the house and come in at odd hours. And you don't want to have lethal force, but maybe the alarm goes off and you want to make sure you're protected. That's what the pepper spray launcher from Sabre can do. We tested these down in South Florida recently. They're awesome. Dozens of products. This is family-owned business. You need to check them out. SABREradio.com. 15% off everything when you go today. Check them out. Protect you, your family. Non-lethal, SABREradio.com. You can also call 844-824-SAFE. That's Sabre Radio, SABRE radio.com.